I saw one guy buying cheap toilet paper. I said, what are you doing? That's 4 rolls for 89 cents. That can't be good. Don't you like yourself? I understand the need to find a bargain. But toilet paper, you buy good toilet paper. I've been really broke. I always got good toilet paper. It's a line you don't cross. It tells you everything will be all right. The bills are late, but I got good toilet paper. We have so many blessings we don't count. We have such great toilet paper. Did you ever think of that? That's Charmin Ultra. Oh, you can make a suit out of that. Is that Versace? Charmin. No dry cleaning, I just flush it.
Good morning. It's Friday, Policecraft Friday, January the 26th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we'll have the news shorts, patriotic shorts, motivational shorts, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 Strategies of War, and the latest segment from Policecraft. All that and more when I get back. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now the news shorts, and this is going to be the last time I do news shorts because it's just too hard to find up-to-date news. Most of the news that I'm able to get my hands on is like a year old, 2 years old, 4 years old, and then it's not news anymore. So this will be the last one.
Mr. Shareholder, learning about this in real time.
Yeah, it's just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It looks like market manipulation, but nobody wins. So why would you come out and say we're going to rock your world or whatever he said, and then the big innovation is we're not investing in this, we're still cost-cutting, but look, we're going to do a faster checkout? That's like table stakes. You have to have a faster check. We all understand that. There's nothing here. They should. I don't know. I'm not impressed by so far. It's a new CEO. Give them the benefit of the doubt. They report on February 7th. Maybe they will rock our world then. But like this is not what's popping in the streets. Like we don't roll like this. We don't say big things and then back them up with basically minor incremental improvements to existing products. That's a really weird flex, and that's why you're seeing the stock get traded this way.
His decline is visible. On a daily basis, he gets worse. In North Carolina Thursday, he was confused about who he was meeting. Before that, he was confused in a coffee shop and looked surprised at the price of a smoothie. He has to be led off the stage. He gets things wrong. He says, we're all getting better off. No, we're not. His delivery is weak, often slurring his words and losing his train of thought. His handlers are scared to death to let him out in public. That's why he rarely appears. They're scared of letting him speak in public because they don't know what he's going to say. They do know he'll look old, and that is a huge problem in an election year. And when he makes a scripted teleprompter speech, he comes across as an angry old man, calling his opponent a dictator. There's something deeper going on here. The president's true condition is being covered up. And we are left with the uncomfortable feeling that Biden is not running the show. We don't know who is. And in time of war, that's troubling. Trump's on a roll. Biden is in daily decline. And if it becomes a Biden versus Trump election in November, Trump's energy and Biden's total lack of it will be center stage. Sure, there will be policy fights, but image is of vital importance in politics. Think of the contrasting images. Biden, frail. Trump, robust. In New Hampshire, Trump's engaged and energized. He sat for an hour-long interview with Lawrence Jones on Fox and Friends. Articulate, entertaining, and yeah, he was funny. If you're not a Trump hater, this guy is very easy to watch. Biden, not so much. It's painful to watch our president stumble through a speech. He doesn't sit for lengthy interviews because you can't do interviews via teleprompter. And if he's not on prompter, his handlers are terrified at what he might say. He's been at the beach all weekend. He doesn't get back to the Oval Office till lunchtime today. And he's not on the ballot in the New Hampshire primary, the Democrat primary, that is. That tells the story. Trump storms through the caucuses and the primary. Biden is reduced to a write-in campaign. Last night, Donald Trump appeared for an hour-long Fox town hall. I watched. I broke all my bedtime rules, and I'm glad I did. Trump turned in a remarkable performance. It's not so much what he said, it's how he said it. Trump was relaxed, he was comfortable, open to any and all questions, and he was funny, too. He didn't look or sound like a dictator, hardly an insult all night. I thought he was softening his image, polishing his language without changing his policies. He seems to be doing what many Republicans want him to do. That is, keep the policies that were so successful, but change the style that turns so many people off. He was engaged in Iowa last night, even though he's been flying all over the country. 12 hours later, he's engaged in a New York courtroom. He doesn't look tired, he's not slurring his words, and he's not losing his train of thought. He has that priceless political asset. He's entertaining. He's easy to watch. What a contrast with President Biden. This is no time for a crisis of confidence, but that's exactly what we have. From the top down, there is real anxiety about the competence and, frankly, the honesty of our government. It is unfortunate that just as the missiles fly, the president's family is at the center of a multi-million-dollar financial scandal. Joe Biden says he had nothing to do with Hunter's business dealings, but the phone logs and the emails say otherwise. Throw in the president's obvious frailty, and you can understand questions about his ability to do the job. Vice President Kamala Harris does not inspire confidence. We have an 81-year-old president, and Harris is just a heartbeat away from the Oval Office. Homeland Security Chief Mayorkas has repeatedly said the border is under control. No, it's not. How can you have confidence in border security when it's clearly wide open? The Defense Secretary is still hospitalized. He's been there since January the 1st, but it took days to tell the Commander-in-Chief. Reportedly, he okayed the strikes in Yemen from his bed.
And that was the news shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the military shorts.
The famous Spitfire is often associated with the Royal Air Force, but did you know that the Germans had one too? In 1942, a British Spitfire crash landed in a field, where it was immediately captured by the Luftwaffe. The Germans discovered that it was still in flying condition and proceeded to fly it to a nearby airfield for testing. They repainted it green and yellow, marked it with the German cross, and flew the captured Spitfire, evaluating it against their own fighter aircraft.
This man's goal was to be shot down by F-16s, so he stole a plane and flew straight into U.S. airspace. Let me explain. At the age of 31, Adam Leon found himself no longer happy with life. But he didn't have the courage to take matters into his own hands. And this is when Adam thought of a plan. He stole a Cessna from a small airport in Ontario, Canada. Undetected, he flew over Lake Superior and crossed the U.S. border, hoping that he would trigger a response from F-16s that would take him down. The first stage of the plan worked. F-16s intercepted him shortly after entering the United States airspace. Even though the fighters tried to force him to land, Adam kept heading south in the Cessna. The F-16 still hadn't taken him down yet, and he had been flying for 7 hours. But he was now urgently running out of fuel. Adam was left with no choice and landed on a remote road in Missouri. He faced a 2-year sentence in prison for the theft and illegal transportation of the aircraft, as well as unauthorized entry into the U.S.
I had 9mm rounds and 14 .556 rounds left.
Holy shit.
I had thrown my 3 frag grenades and his 2 frag grenades and 2 PMs. One of the frag grenades I literally threw in the room I was in.
How many did that did you face that day?
They picked up 26 bodies.
Jesus, man.
It was nuts. That day made me think I was immortal. You survive something like that. But I was young and dumb, right? I mean, just young and cocky. And I just spent almost 2 hours fighting by myself and made it through it. There was no training I had ever done in my life to set me up. There was no single-person CQB classes. I mean, people that take to do CQB, 2, period. So we went over there to use their indoor range, their CQB house, and tested all kinds of crazy John Wick-type shit.
When he turned 17, he received permission from his mother to join the United States Marine Corps. He struggled with authority so much that he was demoted 7 times and spent 41 days in the brig. The only way I could have been made corporal was if all the other privates dropped dead, he once joked about his time in the Corps. He was Steve McQueen, and he was every bit the rebel and hero with the Marines that he would come to portray on the big screen throughout his iconic film career. It was during an amphibious assault exercise in the Labrador Sea off the coast of Greenland when he saved 5 Marines after their ship hit a sandbar, sending a tank into the frigid Arctic waters. McQueen instantly dove in and released them before they drowned. As a reward for his heroics, he was reassigned to guard President Harry S. Truman while he was aboard the presidential yacht, the USS Williamsburg. The Marines made a man out of me. They gave me purpose, he once told a reporter. I'll always be a Marine.
Thank you. Now the motivational shorts.
Champions are broken. It's like people look at champions and try and find something that champion has that they don't have, but it's not that at all. He's like, they lack something everyone else has, which is an off button. They just don't stop. And if we're optimizing for outcomes, then the most broken person will win. The person who has the absolute biggest, desire for achievement, the absolute biggest fear or pain that they're running away from, and the hardest impulse control. Now, impulse control, most people would agree, is a good thing. The other two, not as much. And so, what are we optimizing for? What problem are we solving? If the problem that we're solving is that I want to be content, well, there's a lot of ways to do that, and you don't need to do all these other things. If the problem you're solving is that you want to be the richest man in the world, well, you're going to have a lot of superiority complex, you're going to have a lot of crippling insecurity, and you're going to have a lot of impulse control, and you're going to have to wait a long time.
We're the lucky ones. We're the ones who get to die because you only get to die for having lived. Most people who could ever exist will never even be born. So no matter what your lot is in life, if you have a disease or you have cancer, you're crippled, whatever is the thing, at the end of the day, you're alive, not dead, nor not having ever been born. So take every occasion you can to smell the flowers, to drink in the sunsets and the sunrise and the majestic sky above you that they cradle through the nighttime hours, and celebrate life because you won the lottery.
It's time to stop playing the victim and start owning your life. No more excuses, no more blame games. You're in control. Embrace the pain, face the uncomfortable truths, and take full responsibility. So, get off your ass, stop making excuses, and start taking full responsibility for your life. It won't be easy, and it sure as hell won't be comfortable. But greatness never comes from comfort. Embrace the suck, embrace the challenge, and watch yourself transform into a force to be reckoned with. Life's a battle. It's not easy, and it sure as hell doesn't care about your feelings. But guess what? You signed up for this fight the moment you took your first breath. So stop whining, stop making excuses, and start owning your shit. No more settling for less. Rise up, stay hard, and own your destiny.
I feel to be at the pinnacle of any game. Whatever you do, you've got to be a little bit gone to it. You're not all there. You've got to be almost insane to your craft. Not a lot of people can understand that. That's why I don't know about nothing else. I do not pay attention to nothing else.
You will never understand what is wrong with me. And that's why I'm so fucking glad you don't.
because I'm in the right fucking spot. When people don't understand you anymore, you're in that spot of obsession and drive where people are like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I don't want to talk to you, man, because you're not going to get it.
Embrace the battle within. There's a war you must wage, a battle that transcends external conflicts, the war against yourself. Staring into the mirror, ready to transform your life, is no easy feat. It demands accountability, a willingness to learn, and the courage to endure discomfort. Change is hard, let's not sugarcoat it. Yet it's within the crucible of challenge that we forge our strength. Avoiding discomfort is a shortcut to perpetual weakness. Success isn't a leisurely stroll, it's a challenging expedition. To embark on this journey, you must acquaint yourself with discomfort, for therein lies the crucible of growth.
Your perception, your mindset, your ability to decide how you feel about outside factors in life is pretty much going to decide whether or not you're going to have good days or bad days. You know, if you start anything with a negative mentality, with a negative attitude, then you're just going to find shit to be upset about. I think what I'm really trying to say is you could go into the exact same situation, or you could do 2 days where you do the exact same things. You have the exact same workout, the same day schedule. You have to deal with the same shit, do the same stuff, you know, whatever. But if you can somehow rewire your brain to be a little bit happier about it, right? Be a little bit more jovial instead of a hard ass complaining all the time, then you're going to have more fun, man. You're going to enjoy it.
When you feel like giving up, don't. When you thinking about giving up, don't. When it look like you ain't gonna make it, keep going. When they tell you you can't, come on, man, who are they? When they tell you you're not gonna make it, don't believe them, man. Don't believe them. You got to be relentless.
The harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. See, what you become in the process is more important than the dream. That's far more important. The kind of person you become, the character that you build, the courage that you develop, the faith that you're manifesting. Oh, it's just something that you get up in the morning, you look yourself in the mirror, you're a different kind of person. You walk with a different kind of spirit. And people know that you know what life is, that you have embraced life. You knew it was hard, but you did it hard.
What about looking back over history? You've written the idea that women were oppressed throughout history is an appalling theory. They haven't had a great time, though, have they?
Who has had a great time in history? How about war?
But it took longer for women to get the vote, and women belonged to their husbands.
History's a rough business. Most of the time, men and women helped each other. Like women raised their sons, you know, husbands protected their families. I'm not buying this whole, the sexes have been at each other's throats the entire history of mankind. And then one level deeper than that, I don't like the whole game. The whole game is, let's divide people into groups and contrast their oppression. We did that in the 20th century, right? The right-wingers played it in Nazi Germany, and left-wingers played it throughout the communist world. And all that happened was that we stacked up the corpses, millions of them. It's not a good game. The equity game, that's a bad game.
Bad game?
Bad game.
You don't want to read this just to be sure?
If it says equity, it's a bad game. Because it means equality of outcome.
Right.
And that was the motivational shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the daily laws for January the 26th.
January 26th. Avoid the counterforces to mastery. What weakens that force within us, what makes you not feel it or even doubt its existence, is the degree to which you have succumbed to another force in life, social pressures to conform. These counterforces can be very powerful. You want to fit into a group. Unconsciously, you might feel that what makes you different is embarrassing or painful. Your parents often act as a counterforce as well. They may seek to direct you to a career path that is lucrative and comfortable. If these counterforces become strong enough, you can lose complete contact with your uniqueness, with who you really are. Your inclinations and desires become modeled on those of others. This can set you off on a very dangerous path. You end up choosing a career that does not really suit you. Your desire and interest slowly wane, and your work suffers for it. You come to see pleasure and fulfillment as something that comes from outside your work. Because you are increasingly less engaged in your career, you fail to pay attention to changes going on in the field. You fall behind the times and pay a price for this. At moments when you must make important decisions, you flounder or follow what others are doing because you have no sense of inner direction or radar to guide you. You have broken contact with your destiny as formed at birth. At all cost, you must avoid such a fate. Daily law. The process of following your life's task all the way to mastery can essentially begin at any point in life. The hidden force within you is always there and ready to be engaged, but only if you can silence the noise from others. Mastery, Chapter 1. Discover your calling, the life's task.
And that was the daily laws for January the 26th. Back in a minute. And now Bishop Robert Barron.
Increases in the measure that you give it away. Put that on your refrigerator. Live by it. Every instinct in us says, no, take things to yourself. Hang on to them. Hoard them. Keep them. Make sure you've got enough. People want some, keep them at bay. That's your possession. But that runs counter to the basic logic of the universe, because the creator of the universe is love. We say God is love. Love isn't something God does from time to time. It's not one of God's attributes. It's what God is, right through. Love, therefore, is the secret. Love is the great mystery, the hidden truth of all things. And the way it works is the more you give of your life, that's what love means, to will the good of the other, the more the divine grace increases in you.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, who is the first target of the ecological crusade? No, not big business. The first victims will be a specific group, those who are young, ambitious, and poor. To them, time is the one priceless commodity most passionately needed. They are the main beneficiaries of electric percolators, frozen foods, washing machines, and labor-saving devices. And if the production and, above all, the invention of such devices is retarded or diminished by the ecological crusade, it will be one of the darkest crimes against humanity, unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Back in a minute. Thank you. So here's that way to deal with the latest news from Donald Trump about the lawsuit, and that is when somebody brings it up, especially if you talk about somebody that is doing it to tease you or to aggravate you, the best way to handle it is simple denial. You just simply say, if they say, well, guess what, this lawsuit went this way for Donald Trump or against Donald Trump, you say, no, it didn't. Well, it was on TV. No, it wasn't. Just simply deny it, and then they're the ones that are going to end up getting driven crazy while you stay calm, and that's the point. Back in a minute. Thank you. If you're a Democrat, a right-thinking Democrat, you need to vote Republican and become a Republican. We are the true party of government. We are the ones that love government. The Democrat Party just loves power. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Policecraft by Adam Plantinga.
8. The Corner. Not yo Wi-Fi, bitch. One of the available wireless connections on my phone while standing at the corner, October 2015. Not all city corners are the same, but what's described in this chapter will sound familiar to officers from coast to coast and to anyone who knows the grittier part of their hometown. In San Francisco, it's places like 3rd and Palau. In Milwaukee, 35th and West Fond du Lac. In Baltimore, I'm told, it's Rutland and Federal. The corner is where crime, commerce, and urban despair all mingle with an undercurrent of street theater. There's often a guy passed out in the coin-operated laundry, his teeth ground to nubs. Watch your step on the corner, because the sidewalk is lined with broken beer bottles, moon pie wrappers, feces, both human and animal, and the occasional 9mm shell casing that the cops missed in their search last night when someone emptied a magazine at 2 rival gang members with the street names of Sleepy and Cuervo. On the corner, you won't just find a discount liquor store, but a super discount liquor store. On the corner, a guy in a wolf mask will roll by on a unicycle, and you hardly even blink. That's not even the weirdest thing you're gonna see today. No, he's running second to the shirtless man in ragged drawstring pants, wearing a cat-in-the-hat hat, leaning against an ATM like it's a chaise lounge, and furiously dry-humping the air. On the corner, you'll see rats scurrying away. Even the vermin want out. The police spend a lot of time there. It's a working cop's playground. Folks get plenty riled up on the corner for reasons ranging from a controversial police use of force to the home team winning the title. If things really get rolling, they will riot. But riots are by no means exclusive to the corner. Anyone who thinks riots originate only in lower socioeconomic neighborhoods should check out the history of Madison, Wisconsin on Halloween, where the primary source of violence and bedlam has been Chads. For a definition of Chad, please refer to Chapter 4. As a cop, you are required to be hard on the corner. If the situation calls for you to hit someone in the mouth, you let fly your best Sunday punch and you don't apologize. But you can't walk around all rough all the time, because the corner has seen that before and it isn't impressed. I'm not talking about being meek. The meek are gulped down on these streets. I'm talking about being able to roll with it. For the corner calls for flexibility. You must know how to sidestep, which verbal challenge to deflect, when to give someone something they don't expect, what situations call for mild goofiness. So when some corner lifer scowls and steps up to you with, "You think you're pretty tough, don't you?" Instead of flexing on him, you might respond with, "Yep, I am tough. You should see what I did to the crabgrass in my yard last summer." If the short but oh so loud drunk gal in front of the convenience store curses you up and down, ask her, "Why so unfriendly?" Then tell her not to give up on you and cheerfully predict the two of you will be fast friends by the end of the month. If the best you get in return is a reluctant grin, that's still more than you had before. You're just an urban Johnny Appleseed out there trying to lay down some plants that will come to fruition. Have an adventurous spirit? On a tight budget? There are hotels available near the corner with quite reasonable rates. They may not be heavy on accoutrements, and the bathrooms are often shared, but you can still get a room for $50 in San Francisco, where the average one-bedroom apartment goes for $3,000 a month. One seedy establishment on the 6th Street corridor, ground zero for lawlessness in San Francisco, prominently boasts a sign that says, "Students welcome." Another on the same stretch proudly advertises, "Color TV." It's 2018, man. People have color televisions on their wristwatches. Most corner hotels feature grated exterior doors you have to be buzzed through. The acrid smell of urine hits your nostrils as soon as you pass the doorway, and as you ascend the stairs to the front desk, you will step over empty baggies of meth and discarded condoms. The hallway lighting is a sickly institutional yellow. Some folks live in these hotels full-time and have taken to plastering their doors with signs ranging from "keep fuck out" to helpful tips on which guy on the floor has a supply of Narcan, which can revive someone who has just overdosed on heroin. Because it takes a village. Even the corner of the corner is its own neighborhood. I was at the northeast point of 16th and Mission a few years ago, talking to an old-timer who was sitting on a milk crate watching the world go by. I was relatively new to the district then, and he broke down the demographics for me. "This here is Africa," he said, gesturing to the black males around him. "Over there," he said, pointing to the northeast corner of the northeast corner, "is the Hispanics. You cross the street, I don't know." "That there is ISIS," one of his compatriots said helpfully. Romance is far from dead on the corner. I once investigated a stabbing where a 22-year-old woman was slashed by an acquaintance on the rooftop of a Flophouse motel after a drug dispute. I asked the woman if she had dated the suspect, which would make the whole thing fall under domestic violence, which would allow me to turn the investigation over to the Special Victims Unit and continue to pursue the sub-sandwich that had yet eluded me that day. The woman thought about that for a minute. "He has tried to court me," she professed. Court her. The suspect was a heroin addict with prominent neck tattoos and the street name of Monkey. I wondered how Monkey commenced his courtship. 1 glass of iced tea with 2 straws on a porch swing in the waning twilight? Monkey isn't the only character on the corner. There's also the guy wearing a fur hat with ear flaps on an 85-degree day. The proper police response is to point at his head and tell him, "That's a great hat." Or the elderly woman with chin whiskers wearing a 1950s shawl panhandling with a dirty fast food cup, eyes closed, swaying from side to side. Or the man you remember primarily because he once ripped a pigeon in half in front of you. Many people are in wheelchairs, although a few use them as cover for their corner hijinks and can walk just fine, which you find out when you approach with the intent to get into their business, and they spring out of the chair and sprint away from you, calling to mind Eddie Murphy's "I can see, I have legs" epiphany from Trading Places. You will get to know many of these folks, but you must be careful when you address them in public. If you use their Christian name, they often scowl and reply, "Don't be putting me out there like that." Because on the corner, they are known just by their first name or nickname, and they would like to keep their real name on the down low so as not to compromise whatever street hustle they're currently working. You respect that, mostly. If some repeat offender really bugs you, you might see him roll down your window as you pass and call out, "Henry Johnson, holding down the block." What's the worst Henry can do? Complain to your supervisor? "That officer referred to me by name. I'm going to sue him for all he has, and I'll be living in his house by sundown." On the corner, wound care can take interesting turns. I investigated an incident where a man named Rory was stabbed by his live-in girlfriend in the thigh and face with a steak knife. I found Rory a block from his house, sitting near the payphone where he had called 911. I looked at the facial wound. It would need a number of stitches to seal. "Let's call you an ambulance." Rory shook his head at my over-reliance on Western medicine. "I'll just put some Vaseline on it," he said. Vaseline, like old-time boxers used to slip punches in the ring. Despite Rory's faith in petroleum jelly, I convinced him to go to the hospital, where I interviewed him further. He had been with his girlfriend for 10 years. She had just been acquitted of homicide, and, Rory observed, it made her feel invincible. They were still together, despite her transgressions and tendency toward stabbiness. I went back over Rory's account of what happened. The chronology struck me. The girlfriend had slashed him in the leg after arguing about how he had prepared the ground beef for dinner. He punched her in return and walked away. She caught up to him in the living room and cut him again, this time in the face. He sat on the porch and smoked a cigarette. She left in a huff. He stayed on the porch for a time until a man walked by. He asked the man to come over and look at his face. The man suggested he go to the hospital. Rory, taking heed of this stranger's counsel, called 911 from a payphone. There was a decided lack of urgency about the whole affair. "I don't care if she's messing around as long as she don't give me no diseases," Rory said. Then he added, "I love her, but that," the stabbing, "was wrong." I nodded because it seemed wrong to me, too, but it seemed right for the corner. Your desire is to keep the peace and improve the quality of life on the corner. But you can't arrest your way out of entrenched social problems that predate you by decades. Some elements you have little control over. You watch the truck pull up and unload fresh pallets of cheap beer in front of the mini-mart. "Hey, how about some fresh vegetables up in here, pal? Don't think we need any more booze." Or you see a woman, high and unfocused, squat and take a bowel movement between two parked cars. You recognize her because she gave birth on that same corner 2 years ago and left her baby for dead in the rain. Now, as she stands, hair unkempt, flecks of spittle on her lips, it looks like she's pregnant again. By the way, who is the miserable SOB who put another baby in this woman? There's humanity in her. There has to be, doesn't there? But she presents as a walking, talking sack of animal urges. It would take some kind of magic trick to change things for the better out here. And you can't pull a rabbit out of a hat if you don't have a rabbit to start with. People languish on the corner because they lack the two things that adults need in order to thrive. 1, a stable living situation. 2, full-time work, school, or childcare, so the bulk of your day is taken up with something positive. Even if you wanted to commit crimes, you've been working all day and you're too tired at the end of it to get in much mischief. For many of us, those two things are a given. We graduate from high school, perhaps earn a degree, get in a relationship, begin an occupation, live in a decent home in a decent neighborhood, maybe start a family. We expect this. In short, we enter healthy, independent living like slipping into a warm bath. Not so with the denizens of the corner. You run into a lot of them who don't work, who have never worked. I'm talking about guys in their 40s who have literally never held down a real job. And a lot of them don't know anyone else, besides you, who is gainfully employed. That's why it's refreshing to encounter the working man during your tour of duty. You are inclined to give such a fellow a little room to operate. "To hell with the kings," the mayor of Milwaukee once said when told the King of Belgium was planning a visit. "I am for the man who works." Cops feel that way too. A job isn't some kind of shield against police action, but it counts for something. The guy is at least out there trying to be legit, and you respect that. Moreover, you want to help him sustain what he has. You don't want him hanging on the corner. That's why, if you don't have to arrest or cite the laborer, you tend not to. You pull a guy over and he has paint-spattered pants, or he's wearing a polo with a company name on it, or there's a hard hat on the seat next to him. Maybe he gets a break on that license plate light citation. Because it could be his family is one ticket away from not being able to pay rent. Fines pile up and turn into warrants, all of which can threaten a man's employment. And you know that if you take someone's job away, you essentially take them away. If the man on the corner does happen to work, it's likely part-time with Dickensian wages. You ask where he stays, and he points to the bench right behind him. He doesn't have to go anywhere. He's already home. Drug dealing is robust on the corner. The dealers are typically a loose circle of young men in hoodies. If you roll up in a marked car, the whole group starts the slow drift away with the occasional backward glance to see if you're following. You leave and come back in 5 minutes, and they'll have returned to the same spot. They're out there all day to the point where sometimes you encourage them to pursue a hobby between customers to make the best use of their time. Like hacky sack. Listen to narcotics cops, and you'll hear tales of the last time one of them tried to buy dope at the corner in an undercover car. He pulls to the curb, and 5 different guys come up to him, 10 hands in his open window trying to make the sale. When he gets the product, he's got to follow that hand up to the torso, to the face, so he can remember which of the 5 guys it was who he bought from. On the corner, people sit on stained mattresses and cajole passers-by. They eat dry ramen noodles, drink swill from brown paper bags, and roll their own cigarettes, because a man has to have a craft. If you have time, you take their booze away to protect them from themselves, so the next contact the two of you have isn't when they're bathed in blood from the drunken brawl they committed or provoked. Kids are out on the corner even when school is in session. Maybe they're not skipping, maybe it's a half day. But you look at your watch, and it's 10 in the morning. Half a half day. The corner is filthy and will stay that way unless the mayor is touring the job center down the block, in which case the street cleaners will give it an extra hose down and it will look semi-habitable for a few hours. From time to time, a community center will sprout up near the corner. It's often a dismal affair, an apathetic staffer presiding over a few slouching teens gambling with dice underneath a sign announcing anyone who enters can be searched for weapons. One of the frequent public critiques of law enforcement from the corner is, "Y'all doing too much." You put a meth dealer in handcuffs. "It's just dope, y'all doing too much." You chase down a teenage auto burglar. "He's only a kid, y'all doing too much." Conversely, some of the folks on the corner will loudly proclaim the police aren't doing enough, that they don't do anything at all. Don't do anything? We do stuff. Depending on the size of your jurisdiction, you may have anywhere from a few dozen to a few hundred people booked in your county jail every single day. Who do you think puts them there? They don't just turn themselves in out of a crisis of conscience. The police nab them, these murderers, robbers, rapists, and thieves. If the police actually did nothing, you know what that would look like? The film Escape from New York. You'll see folks on the corner who don't quite mesh with the surroundings. I thought of this when I was at the corner walking behind 2 hipsters. One of them had a yoga mat slung over his back. The other had fingernails painted black. "I just had this new peppermint chai tea," Yoga Mat said. "Oh my God, that sounds amazing," Fingernails replied as they stood near an intersection where just last week a man with no teeth and a dreadlock wig had attempted to murder a prostitute by repeatedly knifing her in the chest over a $150 debt. Or you watch the gawky 20-year-old who just left a fantasy gaming convention and is walking over the viaduct straight into gangland territory wearing plastic chainmail with a toy broadsword. "Attention, young paladin, your mystic blade may be +2, +6 versus ring wraiths, but you're heading in the direction of some guys who won't necessarily impress. You can warn the kid all you want, but the right to move about freely is one of the main tenets of democracy." Some nights on the corner, when it's warm and lots of people are out, you get the unsettling sensation that someone is going to die violently tonight. You're often correct. Things get so bad in the summer that cops sometimes jokingly refer to the corner in the most antiseptic of ways. "Ah yes, the intersection of Lewis and Whitman. I'm told we are experiencing some instability in that region." Most people who get shot on the corner utter precisely the same thing. They say, "Ah, shit hurts." I have heard this so many times that if I am ever shot, my guess is that's exactly what is going to come out of my mouth too. It's what one says when one is shot. The shooting victims who don't make it are remembered by street corner memorials complete with teddy bears or small bottles of gin. The chalked messages on the sidewalk range from the heartfelt, "We miss you, Derek," to the vengeful, "We gonna get them niggas." If there's a playground near the corner, the swings will hang perpendicular to the ground from a single chain. If there is a basketball court, the net will be torn off the hoop, or the hoop will be missing altogether. If you take your gun out while searching backyards for a suspect, a neighborhood kid will gleefully shout, "Hell yeah, 5-0's got out his 9." The dining options in this place are limited. There's often a Chinese restaurant with sticky floors and a Quick Mart with chili dogs and jumbo dill pickles.
And that was the first half of Chapter 8, The Corner, from Policecraft by Adam Plantinga. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you to be honest, smart, and beautiful, and remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.